Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most important tenses in English, the present simple. Now, it might seem easy on the surface, but really getting it right, well, that's the secret to sounding natural and fluent. So let's dive right in. So, have you ever stopped and wondered about this? Why do we say I work, but then switch to he works? It's a classic trip up for so many learners, but I promise you, by the end of this, that little S is going to make perfect sense.
Okay, first things first. The present simple isn't usually about what's happening right this second. Nope, it's for stuff that's generally true or happens all the time. Think of it as the tense for all the stable things in our lives. Facts, routines, and all those habits that make us who we are.
All right, let's start with the foundation, building positive sentences. This is where we uncover the single most important rule of the present simple, so you'll want to pay close attention to this next part. This slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? For most subjects, I, you, we, and they, you just use the simple, basic form of the verb. I speak, they go. Easy. But then, look what happens with the third-person singular, he, she, or it. All of a sudden, the verb gets an S. He speaks, she goes.
And this is it. This is the golden rule of the present simple. If you remember one thing today, let it be this. If your subject is he, she, or it, you just add an S to the verb. Honestly, mastering this one little detail is half the battle won.
Of course, you know English. There are always a few little spelling quirks. For most verbs, it's just adding S. Simple. But look at verbs that end in sounds like sh or ss. To make them easier to say, we add es. Think about it. Watches is hard, but watches flows nicely. Then you've got the Y rule. If a consonant comes before the Y, like in study, it changes to studies. But if a vowel's there, like in play, you just add an S for plays.
And now for our two main rebels, the verbs to be and to have. These guys completely ignore the S rule and just do their own thing. You just have to learn them. So we say I am, he is, they are. And for have, it's I have, but she has. They're super common, so they're absolutely worth memorizing.
Okay, so we've got positive sentences covered. Now, how do we make negatives and ask questions? Well, the good news is you don't have to learn a whole new system. We just need to bring in two very important little helper words.
Meet your new best friends for the present simple, do and does. Seriously, these are our helper verbs, and they are the magic key to unlocking pretty much all negatives and questions. Once you get how these two work, everything else just falls right into place.
And hey, this pattern should look familiar. For I, you, we, and they, we use don't. And for our special third-person singular friends, he, she, and it, we use doesn't. So they don't know, but she doesn't know. You see how that S sound has jumped from the main verb onto our new helper verb?
Now this slide is so important. This is probably the biggest mistake people make. Once you use doesn't, the main verb loses its S and goes right back to its original basic form. Just think of it like this. The helper does is already carrying the S, so the main verb doesn't have to. It's always she doesn't work, never she doesn't works.
Let's see this in action. I like coffee becomes I don't like coffee. Simple enough. But look at that second example. She works becomes she doesn't work. See? The S from works has totally vanished because doesn't is doing all the heavy lifting now. And they go just becomes they don't go. It's a really clean, logical switch every time.
Asking a simple yes or no question uses the exact same logic. You just take your helper verb, do or does, and move it to the very beginning of the sentence. Then comes the subject, and then, you guessed it, the base form of the main verb. Again, that S on likes is gone because does is doing the job.
And what if you need more information than just a yes or no? Simple. You just pop a question word like where or when right at the very front. The rest of the sentence structure stays exactly the same. Question word, helper verb, subject, and the base verb. Where do you live? When does she start? It's a simple formula.
But wait, remember our little rebel verb to be? Well, it doesn't play by these rules. It's special. The forms am, is, and are strong enough to make negatives and questions all by themselves. They basically tell do and does, thanks but no thanks, I got this.
And you know what? The rules for to be are wonderfully simple. To make it negative, you just add not. She is a doctor becomes she is not a doctor. To ask a question, you just swap the subject and the verb. He is happy flips to is he happy? No helper verbs anywhere in sight. So much easier.
So we've totally nailed how to build the tense. Now for the really important part, when do we actually use it in a real conversation? There are 4 main situations you really need to know.
First, and most importantly, we use it for habits and routines. You know, the things we do over and over again. Your morning routine, your commute to work, your weekly hobbies. If you see signal words like always, often, every day, or never, that's a huge clue that you need the present simple.
Next up, facts and general truths. These are things that are always true no matter what. It could be a scientific fact, like water freezes at 0 degrees, or just something everybody knows, like a dog has 4 legs. If it's a fact, you're going to use the present simple.
Okay, now this next one can feel a little strange. We sometimes use the present simple to talk about the future. But, and this is a big but, it's only for things that are on a fixed schedule or a timetable. Think of trains, planes, classes, or meetings. We say the train leaves at 8 a.m. tomorrow because that schedule exists as a solid fact right now. And finally, we use the present simple for states, not actions. This is for things like thoughts, feelings, senses, and possession. With verbs like believe, know, love, or want, we're describing a state of being, not a physical action. That's exactly why we say, I understand now, and not, I am understanding now.
Phew, okay. That was a lot to take in. I get it. So let's just pause for a second and boil it all down to the key things that you absolutely positively need to remember.
Here you go, your 3 golden rules. Number 1, in a positive sentence, add that S for he, she, and it. Number 2, for negatives and questions, bring in your helpers don't and doesn't. And number 3, and this is crucial, after a helper verb, the main verb always goes back to its simple base form. If you can just burn these 3 rules into your brain, you're going to be right 90% of the time.
I really like this quote because it just sums everything up perfectly. The present simple is for actions that are regular, true, or normal. When you're not sure, just ask yourself, is this thing regular, true, or normal? If the answer is yes, you're probably in the right place. It's the tense of stability. So, the real work starts now. Using this in your own life. Think about your daily routine for a second. What facts do you know? What do you do on the weekends? The present simple is literally everywhere. And now you have the tools to use it correctly. Thanks so much for joining me and happy practicing.